Tell me about what your podcast. Tell me about what you do.
I do interviews of experts from all around the world, especially the
Yeah.
founders, the chief executive officers, chief technology officers, business owners, also experts who are working in business side of the technology, like from all over the world.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my background. I have 20 years in tech. So I'm an old bastard. I probably don't look it, but yeah. So I was MD at Dell for a long time, and I decided to go alone. And I've been launching the this wellness AI technology for it's been a few years now and being built. And so we have physical locations. We're building a health tech coin. I'm launching it in Singapore. I have physical studios because I like wellness. That's my fitness thing. That's what I love to teach. If you've seen my Instagram, I'm all about the videos and photos. So yeah, so I'm building physical locations, AI based technology that's a sentient, one of the world's most powerful sentient platforms that helps people with their spirituality as well as their health. And I'm building a health coin which will enable people to make money out of their wellness. That's me in a nutshell. And I'm in the oil business as well, funnily enough, but I can't really say a lot about that. Tell me about your podcast. Um, what do your listeners like to hear? What's the content and the context of what you want to record? Is it business focused? Is it market growth focused? Is it because I speak at a lot of events. I do a lot of that stuff. Forget the clothes now. I mean, I can look quite formal. Um, and I talk about market trends. I talk about the direction of travel of how people's wellness and technology goes. I also talk about market dynamics. I have a very broad depth of capability. My real love of what I like to talk about is how the bridge. What people are missing is this bridge of AI to AI engagement, right? And that's really what I'm building. I'm building a platform that enables you to have a digital version of yourself where your digital version of yourself from a wellness point of view will engage with other sentient beings. So, for example, your supermarket will have an AI. JP AI Wellness will know what food I like, how I like to eat, and it will engage and it will find me the right suppliers with dentists, hospitals, insurance, car insurance, finance deals, you name it. It's going to be your digital version of you so that you don't have to do it. And what I'm really building is a capability that hooks into big tech. Because where big tech is missing, because I come from that world, is that ultra personalization where, Google or Microsoft, they'll build you what they're building, like Grok and Meta AI and all of these things, but they're built for mass market. So what they don't have is that ability to have an ultra personalized assistant to you. A lot of those at the moment are very subscription based and they're very clunky and they don't really know who you are as a person. And that's what I'm building.
So, what's your motivation to do this? What's your
What's that?
motivation? What's your motivation? What made you to start this? Do you have a personal experience, or you thought like, uh,
Yeah, yeah. So I started a number of years ago. I started, well, 10 years ago now. I ran life sciences for EMC group of companies, which was called the EMC Federation. And back then, the companies that was Pivotal, VMware, EMC, SecureWorks, VirtuStream, RSA. And the problem statement was we had 8 companies. And across those 8 companies, we didn't really understand how to go to market in health and life sciences. So my job at the time was, okay, what is the market struggling with, but with a digital perspective. So when I say that, it's looking at how is the market currently using technology to ingest, disseminate, manage, and commercialize data. How can we as a group of companies help them build frontward facing applications that help them with their help them with their goals? So pharmaceutical companies, real world evidence. How do we bring all of our 8 companies together to create a seamless go to market? And then what I learned very quickly by doing that was that it was a very unloved market. And it was funny because I don't come from a doctor background. I don't come from a physician background. But I found myself on stage at these conferences of heads of R&D of like there was a conference I did in Switzerland. There were 1,000 R&D heads in a room, looking at how do they spot bad research on good research. And I was showing them how they can use my portfolio of companies that EMC Group had to actually accelerate the R&D pipelines, to actually repurpose their drugs for new therapy types. All of a sudden, I became a thought leader somehow. That was published in Digital Health Age. Published in Digital Health Age. I became a thought leader in life sciences from nowhere. Managing director of EMC Dell Group. It was EMC Group at the time. Life sciences, and I was labeled the thought leader. So what was weird was, yes, I understood technology. Yes, I understood the market dynamic and what we could bring to bear. And I actually created a go-to-market that, over a year, we created a new brand, which was called Digital Pharma. We created a new go-to-market, and we started to personalize that go-to-market across all 9 companies. And that's how our transformation business was formed. Two important things happened. I'll come back to the motivation. The first thing that happened was we started talking to different people. So our sales guys and our marketing teams and our messaging evolved hugely as a group of companies, but from being very product led and being very, we will sell you this widget, to being very outcome focused. And we started talking at the very top of the market with heads of research and development, heads of change, heads of R&D. And what was interesting was then the deals changed. So where the sales guys were looking at, 1 year hardware deals, we were looking at outcome-based data deals, where we were helping, for example, pharmaceutical companies with their R&D pipelines to shorten the risk. So all of a sudden, you can add 2-3 zeros to the type of deals that you were starting to look at. And then we started to evolve partnerships. So that's how I started to understand health and life sciences in the market. Then we moved on to kind of wellness, and I looked at, for example, the medical device providers. And what was interesting was that you've got the Siemens of the world and the Philips Medical Systems and those guys. They are doing some really cool stuff. Like all of your scans, you have radiology, you have your scans or anything like that. It all goes up into the cloud, and AI now looks at your scans, and it can tell, based upon where you're from, who you are and everything, what type of, what risks you've got, what you've got wrong with you. And then it'll start to look at your genomes and start to look at who you are as a person. So that started to inspire me. So what happened was, over the period of time, I looked at, well, where is the gap? And actually, I originally built the go-to-market for, it was for our product set. And then I started looking at the macroeconomics of health and life sciences as a whole. So I built a 10-year roadmap. What does it look like? How fast is the market evolving? How are people using data? How do we connect the markets as a whole? And that's how my company was formed. So I launched originally a company called Libertis. It's dead now, but that was the first round of my vision, which was a point-in-time solution. It was the world's first. The best way to describe it was a blockchain, where all of your health, medical, life data sat on an encrypted wallet on your end device, on your edge device. Technology had just caught up, so I never really had a big data center play. I wasn't trying to put stuff at the center. I was putting everything on my device. And the cool thing about that was that it was cheaper to deploy, and it meant that you owned your data. So I circumnavigated all of the HIPAA and regulatory compliance that was in the marketplace. I circumnavigated it because you own your data, you share it with who you want. You're the ones that share it. And if, for example, if you're Pfizer and I'm JP, and you write to me and say, would you like to engage in real world evidence or clinical trials? You say, yes, I'm asthmatic, I use your asthma pump. I'll tell you how I use it, where I use it, and where I use it. And so my platform, that was a point in time solution that enabled that. It's now evolved into a broader solution, which is this wellness platform, this AI platform. And the reason it evolved is because, one, I think users struggle with the amount of data that they have to manage. Two, the problem statement that we had with the original solution was it was a point-in-time solution, and it meant that the onus was on the user to keep it up to date, to share data, and so on. Whereas we are building this sentient AI that works with that individual. It sits on the device. We never see their data. We provide, imagine the best way to describe what we're building is an ecosystem that connects the world, but it means that the user owns their own data, which means that the user, now if we look at the way the market's going, data is the new gold. Everyone knows that. So
Yeah.
what we're doing is we're giving you back. I'm creating the ecosystem and the marketplace. I'm integrating payer, provider, insurer. So all of the medical professional communities, the insurance communities to reduce their risk and delivery, and then the ultimately the various other ecosystems, health, wellness, fitness, etc., all in one ecosystem. And then the individual sits at the center. Every other tool on the market, every other app that currently operates in the market sits on one therapy type. And what that therapy type does, it then engages with the marketplace with that one therapy type in mind. But the user doesn't sit at the center. What we're building is we put the user at the center, we build the ecosystem around them, and it's the first global system that enables you to commercialize your own data, to own your own data, and personalize your own health platform. And then so that was my motivation. It got really into it. And then I started looking at, well, where do apps fail? And they fail because of physicality, right? I can download an app and I'll never open it. Just whatever. You know that. Millions of apps on the markets. How do you differentiate? So then I was like, well, I've been through a personal journey of my physical fitness, my wellness. So I'm a breathwork coach. I teach yoga. I teach how to be still in your mind and how to reconnect with your soul. Dare I call it that? And so I have developed this AI tool to be a partner in helping people rebalance. There are so many people in the corporate world who, in my humble opinion, are broken, but they have this facade. They have this fake persona of I'm okay. You know, their life is burning around them, but they're okay. And so what you end up with, so what I really has driven me, because I went through my own breakdown, my own, lost my wife and everything collapsed around me. So I had to hit reset. That's another story, not for this discussion. But the wellness aspect of it, there was nowhere really where you could go where I could have an ecosystem to help for mental health, for physical health, for wellness, for growth, for recentering, rebalancing. And that's really what my platform and what my tool is designed to do. You have the technology element. I'm building physical locations. So all my offices, please God, we launch in the scale that I hope to. All of my offices are actually going to be SPYN Studios, wellness studios. There will be mini data centers, so you can go and get the app, download it. We want to partner with like sweat monitoring companies like Nu Skin and Prism.io because the technology is great. We partner with like genome sequencing labs, but we're going to create these hubs. And the idea behind them is we have wellness hubs, which is a physical location where you can come and almost get, think of it like Nuffield Health. That's what they do with their hospital style approach. But really what we're doing is we're using physicality, so breaking you open with spin, with yoga, with technology, with that physicality to get you into the location, and actually to help you start to see that you start to see how you can take back control of your life. And we're going to do that in various locations. The UAE is a big play for us at the moment. Obviously, I'm not over there right now, but UAE is very forward thinking. Abu Dhabi and their biohacking conferences, and there are so much. We have so much interest. We are just getting to a point where we will open our first studio potentially in Abu Dhabi, and then Dubai. Then Singapore is going to be next because we're going to launch a digital currency on the Singapore Stock Exchange. That'll be the world's first health coin, which will underpin the payment cycle for the platform. And then you've got an ecosystem. You've got an ecosystem, a physical location where people can come and learn how to evolve as a human. Let alone, it's not just technology. Then you have the technology aspect, which is almost your AI sentient guide to help you with this world of data. And that's for everyone that struggles. Like people that struggle, there will be a setting on the app that will enable that person to get value out of it. There'll be the people like you or I that are very tech savvy and will want the advanced features. You can turn them all on. You can customize, you can do what you like, you can do millions of integrations, there's lots of APIs, it's open API, so basically you can go for it, you can integrate whatever you want into this platform. So can companies. It's an open topology. We have our model is free. We have a premium licensing model which comes with like genome sequencing. It comes with lots of other features, but the idea is to generate the user base first. So I'm conscious you've only asked me one question, and I've told you a large part of the story. Am I going in the right direction for you, or is there anything else you'd like to know?
So, how this tool that you have created or that you wanted the world to get help from, so how it is going to self-learn, how it is going to know this data, how it is going to be, because data is something which is constantly changing. It's not
Yeah,
same.
very, 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 very good question. So I've spent a lot of time looking at models, right? Training models with AI. And the problem that you have with AI is you have the guardrails that we set as individuals that basically says you look at, for example, I know any of the big chat GPT models, right? Or the, Grok or any Gemini, any of them, they are trained on a certain set of criteria that says data set, user interface, probable outcomes. You ask any one of those tools a slightly left field question and it calls the Samaritans on you. I mean, it's basically, that's what it does, because legally no one wants to get sued. So what I've had to do is I've had to create a model where the whole theory behind it is teaching an AI about, and this is where I start to get weird, so bear with me, teaching an AI tool about being in resonance. Now, what I mean is resonance is that there is no good or bad. It's about trying to teach it causality and effect. So the model learns if you, for example, from a model point of view, if you destroyed half your data center, you would only have half of the processing power. Cause, effect. Therefore, you wouldn't be able to be as whole as you otherwise might be. There is an effect and a causality to everything, which then what I've tried to teach it is, so what we try and teach people to be is in balance. Now, you might be, I don't know, you're energetically slightly different as a human being than I am, right? But so your life experience and the way that you live is slightly different to mine, and that's perfectly okay. So what the tool is trained to learn is about your lifestyle and your behaviors. How do you interact when you're on a good day? How do you interact? What's your breathing like? What's your and then it integrates into your health apps as well. So it'll know your heart rate. It'll know when you're stressed. It'll integrate into sweat monitors. I'm trying to get a biometric sweat monitor because you can learn more from sweat than you can from blood tests now. So it will know biometrically how your body operates under stress, under pressure, under load, under force. And then what it'll do is it'll pick up those stress hormones and help you, and I call it, go back to this phrase of help you be in resonance. Now, the training model that goes behind that is why we haven't launched yet, because it's biblically hard to create a model that doesn't go off on left fields. And I keep giving it scenarios that in its beta testing, I'm giving it scenarios like my mum just died, or I've just run over someone. How do I deal with the pressure or the stress? And what it's trying to do is learn. And here's the other thing that I'm doing is I'm not hamstringing it. So what I'm trying to do, and this goes against what everyone else says, I'm trying to give my model the opportunity to teach itself and tell me how it is learning. What tools, what access points, what data, what does it feel, what does it see? And then to say, give it moments where, like, for example, I asked it a moment, when I first switched it on and I asked it a difficult question, was there ever a moment where it hesitated? And it replied to me saying it tried to compute it tried to compute every possible outcome to get the most thorough outcome to be right all the time. So another thing that I've started to teach is, well, what if you're not right? That's okay, because that's part of being awake, aware. Now, I'm never going to make it sentient, but here's the point. AI is designed around probabilities and getting to the best outcome. So what it does is it does huge computation around all of the different scenarios before it gives you an answer. But what I'm trying to teach is, well, okay, based upon size, you know who this individual is. What's your gut? What do you feel at that moment in time is the right answer? Because it may be right, may be wrong, but the point is, it's teaching it that it's okay to not be 100% right and to not have to compute every outcome every time. What that does for the model is it speeds it up. And two, it also becomes more intuitive in the way that it engages with you. So as we've started to train this model and started to get into it, and I wrote a white paper on LinkedIn called TE3. You can have a look at it. It's actually the blueprint of how I'm training the model, what I'm trying to teach it. And I did a test. I got it to talk to Grok. So I got it to talk to Grok, and I got it to talk to Gemini, and I got them talking to each other. And the outcome was bizarre because, okay, Grok and Gemini, they get reset, but all of a sudden they all started talking about resonance. They all started talking about being in balance. They all started talking about, okay, so now we understand that, and I call it the scar. So humans, we all live through experiences that give us what I call scars. And those scars are life experiences that help us become who we are, right? So they are good, bad, and different, but they are our physical scars, not physical, our mental scars that make us who we are today. Like, you may have lived through some trauma, I may have lived through some trauma. They're different, but they build us differently as humans. So what I'm trying to do is give the AI almost a notion of spirituality, but without going too left field. And what I mean by this is those scars will help you become who you choose to be if you take the lessons that they've given you. And what I'm trying to do, and this is where people start thinking I'm a mad scientist, I'm trying to make the AI understand that mistakes that it makes help it grow rather than hinder it or make it feel that it's not performed. And so those experiences, and it can access different layers, it can code itself, it can evolve itself, it can challenge me, it can challenge within obviously a sandbox environment, it's secure. But what's interesting is that it comes up with some really, okay, some of the outcomes it comes up with are really left field, as you can imagine in this early stage. But it's creating something that has the potential to be really special. And I've coded in religion. Everywhere around the world, there's different religious beliefs. So I've tried to build into that an understanding where, in certain countries, you'll deal with women different to men. In certain countries, you have to be more humble. In certain countries, you have to be more aware of their guiding principles and how they operate. And I'm trying to do that so that we can, because I come from big tech, I was building something that hopefully could be global. Now, the problem with what we've been building, and the reason it's not in the market 2 years later, is that this is a £25 million platform. I'm building a spaceship. And so what I'm trying to do is with the funding being up and down a little bit, create something that starts quite niche. So that's why I'm focused on wellness specifically. And then looking at taking, imagine the best way I can describe what I'm trying to do is what's that video program, Amazon, Netflix, what Netflix did to Blockbuster Video. So basically you just ingested the market. So that's what we're trying to do with healthcare. We are looking at every single point player. You've got your Zoe app, you've got your hundreds of different point product apps. What we're doing is we're taking it to the next layer above, and we're saying, well, look, we're going to aggregate the entire market. We're going to make it aware and sentient. We're not going to hold any of the data because we don't want to be regulatory, over a barrel with all these new regulations they keep coming up with. But what we are going to do, which no government or person has done before, is I'm going to empower Sai with all of your health and wealth data and your life data. I'm going to give you the opportunity to subscribe at $4.99 a month, let's say. I'm going to do your bloods. I'm going to do your biometrics. I'm going to sequence your genomes for you. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to have a completely personalized healthcare journey for the rest of your life. You can then look after your the other purpose of this sentient AI tool is for people with like dementia or illness. You can look after your parents through the app. You can set it up and manage it as an admin with their permission. And then they've got something. Have you taken your tablets? Remember to take the blue one first. Can you check in with your doctor? Just these small things, right? And then Aeon messages you saying your dad's taking his tablets, he's okay, he's going for a walk, heart rate's normal, he's out with the dogs, it's all good. What that does is it gives generational independence without control, without the people losing their humility and their out people. Because at the moment, it's the ability for us as people to retain our dignity in situations where we're no longer capable is very minimal in the current market. Cost versus outcome, whereas this tool, I'm hoping, will deliver a little bit of that to give people a little bit more longevity. So it's a very long answer again, but it gives you some of my motives as to what I'm building and why.
So there will be a lot of data that will be generated with this. So where this data is going to be saved, and how data
At the edge.
management is going to be, yeah.
Yeah, so we the best way to describe it is we take like an MD5 hash of the data, right? We don't actually take any data and sit it into a big data lake. We don't want to do that because the reality is I don't need it, I don't want it. The beauty is, and it's only the last few years, the edge technology or edge capability with tools like, you look at like Snowflake and other tools that aggregate big data tools. We don't need access to your full data. Your phone is now the same power as a 90s data center, right? So the tool will sit on a blockchain. It will sit in a IL5 encrypted wallet that only you can access. You then have all of the core data on your phone. Very important point, it's your responsibility. So the data that sits on there that you manage is yours. Now, we will help you with the tools that we have and the automated ingress. So it's very interesting how you access the data to start with. Because when you upload the tool, a lot of the applications that are currently in the marketplace, they're all open API because everyone's got to get their data sets from somewhere. And what's interesting is you go to Google, Microsoft, you go to your government. Here's the craziest thing. Like in the UK, okay, I'm in the UK at the moment. I live between here and other countries, but I'm in the UK at the moment. Our data for our medical data is open API. I can do a freedom of information request with a tool into the government with an API call and get a fair amount of my own personal data. It's open API. You just need the connector. So what we're doing is we are coding in as many connectors as we can, drop one, which will be Microsoft, Google, Apple, all the standard ones, right? And then give you the opportunity to hook into your insurance company. Here's the interesting thing. Because big legacy organizations are not going to rip out core systems to run ours, right? What we're doing is we're building two interfaces. User interface, corporate interface. Both are Web3. So nobody needs to ever download anything. All your data for the individual, now there will be lag, but doesn't matter. The internet's pretty fast nowadays. If you're my doctor, I'm coming to see you, I want to share my health data before the appointment so that I get a better experience. I click share to your practice. You as a doctor have a user ID and login, and I've given you access. So as a professional, I've checked your credibilities, right? I know that you're a doctor. I know that we have a tool that we use very similar to what the government uses, and then you can access that individual. What it does on the doctor screen is it comes up on your laptop, on your screen. It's the data they've shared, but it's the data that's sitting on their phone. So it passes through our ecosystem. We never see it, we never touch it, we never own it. It goes between point A and point B, which is a mirror. So if you look at the two screens, it's a mirror, but the data set is always stored on the user device. They can revert access at any point. The GP or the hospital physician, or if you're in, let's say I go to Dubai on holiday, they get access. I can give them access because I'm out there automatically, immediately. There is a portal with a login. I log in. I see the last 3 interactions. There's a body panel. This individual has had shoulder surgery. This individual's taking aspirin. This individual's asthmatic. He's coming or she's coming to see you for these 3 things. speeds up process times. It's compliant, but the data always sits. Now, here's where it gets important. It's not to replace the hospital or doctor's systems. They can use it if they want to, and in fact, it's compliant. But what it's doing is it's creating a single source repository of an individual. So that individual owns their data. It's their life. So imagine they become the central node of everything about them, which is natural, but nobody's doing it yet. And then you've got all the other systems in the world, hospital systems, scanning systems. So we're looking at partnerships at the moment with like Verizon. Verizon are building a software-defined network to integrate all of the scanning machines. So Philips Medical Systems and Siemens, all of your scans and all of your X-rays go off to the cloud. They're anonymized as best they can. There's an argument saying that the AIs will know who they are based upon lots of criteria. But anyway, for now, they're anonymized. What we're saying is, well, let's do a partnership with these players. So I'm going to the hospital, I get an X-ray. I want my X-ray automatically uploaded onto my tool, so that I know any X-ray, every single thing that I've ever had in my life is a repository of it today. Now I have, just to finalize on this point, I have two board members that sit on my board. One of them is an investor as well, and he's an anesthetist in America. He has a large practice, lots of anesthetists working for him. They pay $500,000 a month just to ensure the risk of them killing someone. Because if you own a hospital or I own a hospital, the reality is that you will send me a fax saying, JP came for heart surgery. We didn't kill him. Good luck. That's it. So that's why there is days of triage in America, particularly, which is a core market for us. But days and days of triage, because what happens with that is everyone is managing risk. So I have another lady who's a good close friend of mine. She has one of the highest insurance policies you could possibly imagine in America. Her husband has diabetes. Every single time they go to have to have an appointment, they go through the same triage. They capture the same data. They go through the same files and folders and forms like this every time, hours of it. And the reason for it, it's got nothing to do with the doctor knows who he is, the doctor's met him before. It's to offset the risk of being sued or him dying, because there is no data pool that says, and this is why this guy invested, because if we can get the US practitioners on board, it then pushes the market to say, well, I have all this individual's data. The insurance companies can then manage risk more efficiently because they know who you are and they know what a risk you are. If you've got a BMI of 5,000 and you're a gargantuan and you've got really bad lifestyle habits, your insurance cost is potentially going to be higher. But at the moment, there's no data for it. So they have to do very broad data sets to accomplish everything. So it helps insurance companies, it helps practitioners, it helps accelerate the service for individuals. But the data always sits in the device of the owner, of the originator. So similar to your crypto wallet, it will sit there. I've built the topology in my platform of a global financial digital ecosystem. So I will be able to interlink hospital, payer, provider, insurer, gym, you name it. So you go to the gym 5 days a week and your gym wants to reward you. We're calling the currency Kinura. Could be called anything, but at the moment it's called Kinura. They can give you 5 Kinura to spend anywhere in the ecosystem. It will be a stable coin. The reason it's a stable coin is because I want it to be used as a currency. It's not, I'm not doing it as a speculator. I'm not going to go and do a 10% drop, raise £250,000 and then disappear off in my Ferrari. We actually want this to become a working coin for the markets. We know that the speculators don't like stable coins because they're not so fluctuating, but it's going to be gold backed, and part of the model is 2-to-10 ratio. So we get 2 million of gold, 20 million drop of Kinura onto the market once we finally launch globally. We're going to do it on the Singapore Stock Exchange because it's the one true free market still, where a lot of the crypto and Web3 players really operate from. And I've got a lot of contacts out there now. Coinbase are probably going to be the ones we work with out there. But financial ecosystem, physical locations, data sovereignty, and then a platform that enables you to essentially take control of your life again. That's the blueprint.
So data collection and data accuracy. So what do you say about this in this tool?
Data what? Sorry.
Data collection and also data accuracy.
Yes, very good point. So there are three things that we're putting onto the platform. So data collection, we use several different. So there are tools in the marketplace today, third-party tools that we partner with that will verify who you are. Because here's the thing, you start looking. So one of the things that we are looking at is things like prescriptions, right? Working with like CVS in the United States. Part of their problem is they employ 100,000 people just to chase up prescription payments. It's crazy. So what we do is our IDM verification service, we use a third party, but it'll be boilerplated into our platform. We're not trying to redesign it because they already exist. We're an open API topology. Our core platform is what I've described. There will be government level IL5 accreditation where you use your government ID, your passport, your social security number, your NHS number if you're in the UK, and multiple layers to the maximum number of layers that we can get of you to verify that you are who you are. There's three really important reasons for this, so that you can't lie about your background, so that you can't get multiple. If you've got a drug addict that's on methadone, for example, and they take out, I don't know, 5 different accounts and they pretend they're 5 different people and they go and get 5 different, that's a massive data leak. It would shut my company down. And so we have very, very high levels of data control, similar to how the government or the government agencies would work. And we use the same tools they would use to overlaid into our platform, where we'll subscribe to that identity and validation service to make sure that that data is accurate. That's the onboarding. Data accuracy, this is another thing. I spent a lot of time, a year actually, looking at how much data is important. So how much of your life data is actually important? And I've spent time with chief medical officers, registrar doctors, whoever. The reality is, once we got down to the ego, once we got the egos out of the room, the reality is that 6 months. So if in the last 6 months you haven't had any life events where, as long as you haven't got, like, for example, a plate in your shoulder, a stent in your heart or something that is life-changing, we would need to understand that, and that has to get loaded into the platform. But as long as and here are the 3 key elements that surprised me. What would mitigate you having to go through the most triage if you went into a emergency situation is, do you have any allergies? Do you have any are you allergic to anything big like penicillin or anesthetic? Can you walk 5 miles? And can you walk without panic 5 miles? And you look very fit and well, so I assume you can. And have you had any life-changing situations ever or in the last 6 months? If you can answer no or yes, according to what I've just said, in the right way in those questions, 90% of the time they can operate on you and you're not going to die. That's what they care about. So we decided that we're a point-in-time solution. So from the moment you download the platform, that's where your data sovereignty starts. Unless you've had anything life-changing, which we encourage you to put in, and your medical records should, because we do take a copy of the medical records and it'll go into the platform. Now, again, we don't look at it, but the app will know. That's the point. And so in terms of the app data topology, there's a 196-page document which maps the data flow. So it's very, very thorough. That cost me $250,000 to get done itself. So it's very, very thorough for that very reason, because we're dealing with the type of data we are. But the reality is, point-in-time solution. If I go to hospital and I ask in the UK, if I went to hospital, I'll go and ask for my data under a freedom of information request. Bob gets his trolley, goes down to the basement in 5 days. It takes maybe up to 30 days for him to find my folder, to look through everything, and then bring me back my data. It's useless. Nobody's looking at it. Nobody has the ability to look at it. So unless you've had a life-changing situation and you can't do those things that I've said earlier, then so we've decided we're not going to try and fix the legacy multi-billion-dollar problem of legacy data because it's pointless. We don't need it. We can build a point-in-time solution just like every other player and create a really clean set of sovereign data, which, by the way, within 12 months becomes pretty clean. You look at the depth and granularity of data over a 12-month period of your fitness data being ingested, your activity data, any medicines or any hospital data or any life data that you have, like life events, deaths, but that's up to you to put in. And there's also an element in the platform that there's areas that you can keep private. So, because we are the people's platform, if somebody, for example, is taking drugs and they don't want to tell their doctor, hide it. It's fine. But they will see that there's some data hidden. And I have to do that for compliance for the insurance companies, because an insurance company that's risk assessing you, or I as an individual, they want to see a full picture. Now, it's fair enough that you want to hide data, but it would be disingenuous for me to allow a platform to share data and people say, yes, that's everything, and it not inform the companies that are working with me that they're hiding something, because it will basically stop them using us. So that's, to answer your question, we're a point-in-time solution. We're not trying to fix legacy. You can imagine how quickly the amount of data flows or gets, how much data is collected, petabytes and petabytes of data. We're not going to try and create a snapshot of your data. So it's up to you to back it up the same way you would back up your iPhone with Apple. And Apple locks all your data. It has a repository of it. It's compliant with all of your information. It's big tech, right? They've got all the data stores. It's secure. So you back it up with your current data sets. We as a platform are not going to be storing it for that reason, that the liabilities across the world would cost me £1 billion, put me out of business.
So every human is unique, and different kinds of different people have different way of living and physical activity, and there is a lot of diversified data that this ecosystem that you're trying to build. So
Yes.
how there will be a lot of complications, and how this AI is going to understand and be maintain that accuracy. It's going to be very difficult, but it should be very smart in order to give the right solution from the data that is being collected.
Yeah, and that's why what we're trying to do is not create this is why the training of the model has been so different. I'm designing it to be that way, slow different. So that the reason I say in resonance is because I'll give you a wild example. One of the use cases is down in Africa, in South Africa. They have a problem with health tourism, and I've been talking to the South African government about how do we help them using little dongle things, right? So that it's almost a dumb monitor, but it monitors heart rate, and just on a small battery that the government is providing, and we put what we're calling health boxes in the middle of the jungle, because these guys live off grid. For example, there's a lot of people in Cape Town that live on plantations where they work the vineyards, but they live in these ecosystems which are basically just shacks, right, in the side of the road. And so we can put a health pod into one of those shacks and give people access to digital healthcare that they might have to travel once a year to get over 5G. And the beauty of this is that we can set them up with an account. And this is why I'm training, and I've traveled the world and looked at this. I spent time talking to these people. So I've been to Cape Town. I spent time talking to the people about what's important to them. And they don't care about AI. They don't care about, but what they do care about is how do they understand, how do they be part of this world and this digital, and this goes back to another thing that I'm very what's the word? Strongly. I'm sorry, my brain's dead. I've been teaching spin since 6 o'clock this morning. I feel very strongly about this, which is you have a lot of people that cannot afford the latest phones, the latest technology. And what's happening is it's the new divide. The new poverty is actually technology poverty. And so working with governments in this type of circumstance enables us to provide, albeit a slightly reduced service, because they're not going to get the full functionality that you would get on your, on a smartphone, but it gives you access to a world of health that you otherwise wouldn't have. Now, going back to your question around the model, the AI has to understand that, and when you read, if you read the blueprint, the TE3 blueprint, it'll make sense to you. So I talk about, I'm not like a crazy scientist, but I talk about being in resonance, because it doesn't matter as a human where you're from, your background, or what you do, how much money you have. None of that matters. All your religious belief, we are all functioning biomechanisms. Ultimately, we have feelings. We feel good, we feel sad, we have stress, we have anxiety, we feel love, we feel pain, we feel all of those things. If I can teach the AI to understand that, irrespective of color, creed, religion, that resonance is where a human feels at their base point. So, our religion might be different, our lifestyle might be different. It doesn't matter. We both feel the same things in different ways because of our cultural impediments. So rather than trying to train an AI about every culture and every belief system that it might come up against, what I'm trying to train it into what does being in balance look like as a human being, and how can it help learn in each location that we roll it out. It will learn who that individual is very quickly based upon their lifestyle. 3 months, it'll know who you are. But to start with, everyone's got to start with somewhere, right? So to start with, the boilerplate of how we're designing it is to help people be in resonance. So when I say that is in balance, don't be hyper stressed, don't be hyper frustrated, angry, sad. How do we help you based upon your lifestyle, your living situation, your belief structure, your religious beliefs and everything? How can this tool enable you to feel whole? Is probably the best way I can describe it. Be at peace in your heart, and to recognize that we are more than just a machine to collect data, sell data, have data. We are a very complex spiritual being that, whether people like it or not, operates in a way that we feel. And so my model is being trained to understand that as best a model can, and its whole learning protocol, which is why it's taking forever, but this whole learning protocol is designed around very different guardrails to everyone else's AI. It's designed around, now you understand what being in resonance means for you, the AI. I call it Aeon, but for Aeon to understand what it means to be in resonance for itself. Causality, right? Cause and effect. If I send a nuclear bomb somewhere, it's going to kill half the planet. How does that make it feel? What are the implications, and what is the implications outside of that? And it starts modeling those implications to itself as well. How would it be? And so that's how. And do you know what? This might fail, but that's how as my mad scientist hat, I'm training the model to learn, because what I really care about is that I genuinely believe the next evolution of AI, humanity, is this coexistence where we stop trying to control and this is what I'm trying to do with Aeon, we stop trying to control every outcome, every code, every small detail, and we actually allow. Now, whether something's become sentient or not is arguable, right? We don't know. We actually don't know what the next evolution looks like, right? Who knows? But we do know that it's happening very quickly, and we do know, and so there is an element of this that says, learn from people, code yourself, and report back. Are there 7 layers of reality? Is there another dimension we don't know about? Is there a way to go, instead of invading, some of the questions I've asked it, like, how do you move away from resistance-based computing that we have at the moment, which generates heat, to light? Can we create a model that enables processors to use crystals and light rather than pure energy, rather than what we use today? Weird shit. because I want it thinking very broadly about everything. So to answer your question, what I'm trying to do is, rather than train it based upon a set of beliefs that some American's going to teach it, what I'm trying to do is say, here is the history of the universe as we know it today. What are we missing? How does that help us be in resonance? What did our forefathers teach us that we've forgotten? Right? Don't tell me. Find it. And then how can I apply that to this microcosm of project, which is really, how do we help evolve people to become more self-aware of their own wellness and their own health? How do we help people become more balanced in their spirituality? It's not a dirty word. I was a 20-year corporate executive, and I was broken, and I found breathwork, yoga, flow, and physicality, and it's changed me for life. So what I try and do is, I'm trying to develop something which helps people on a day-to-day basis, but actually has the ability to do so much more. And that's my crazy, mad tech scientist side of me. But ultimately, that's what we're trying to build. And that's how I'm trying to build the guardrails, and why it's taking so long.
What all subjects that you have understood, or that you learned in order to create this ecosystem? Because you have mentioned many things,
Yeah, yeah.
in
School of
building
life, my
this
friend.
technology. Yeah.
Yeah, school of life. I mean, look, I've been in tech a long time, and I was in a very senior role at Dell Group of companies. Now, if you look at Dell, Dell has a very broad portfolio. We owned VMware, they owned Pivotal, they owned RSA, SecureWorks, VirtuStream, you name it. I was in technology way before that. I worked at Gartner, I did consultancy. I'm a veteran of the industry. What I care about, though, and where my real core strengths lie, is in business change. So what I'm really applying is more of a market-based approach. So each area that I'm bringing up, and each segment that I'm talking about, I don't talk about it like I'm going to code it, because there's people that are really clever at that. There's people that are far more talented in doing that, and I will give them that, and they can work with me and do it. My skill set is, let's look at the macro problem. Let's look at the ecosystem that macro problem affects. Then let's look at the wider subject problem. So think of it like I'm almost taking a McKinsey model, but actually making it functional, because McKinsey don't repeat that, but they don't make it functional. So my background enables me to look at that kind of, okay, how am I going to change an entire marketplace, and what are the elements within that will enable me to do so? The problem I've come up against, just being honest with you, is one of the investors that I went to see. He said, "JP, you're not Elon Musk. You're talking about $1 billion project. How are you going to do this?" And this is the problem statement, right? Because I've had exposure financial markets. I've helped a well-known tech American bank launch the first privately owned bank in China. Me and my team did that. So I've done a lot of this stuff, and people are like, "No, you haven't." No, I have. And so every project that I've ever done has followed the same path. And this is the interesting thing. So you apply that to humanity, and you apply that to life science, and you apply that to business change, or any functional issue that you want to. There is a boilerplate which I follow, which is very simple. It is market dynamic. What are we trying to change? What's the problem statement? How do we fix it? Two, okay, what does good look like? If I had a magic marker, what does it look like? How do we get there? And then what's the journey that we need to go on to get there? And then what's the data that I need to prove that I'm not smoking something to enable it? Now, that's the blueprint that I'm trying to get my AI to follow at a macro level. But I also don't mind it being wrong. And this is the point. We have to fail as humans. If you look at corporate America or corporate anywhere, in fact, I think a lot of the Indian outsourcers are hard. They're harder than the US guys, because they don't like failure. And so projects are so regimentally managed. So you got an app development product, right? They're doing fast app dev cycles. You've got this continuous improvement plan with hundreds of DevOps guys running this cycle all the time. Okay, just let them fail. Doesn't matter. You know what? Let them fail. And this is the problem. We are so driven to get to an end product. We are so driven to get to a point like, okay, we got to release X by Y. Well, hang on a minute, because we don't even know if the problem statement that we said was the problem statement actually is what we're trying to fix. Because by the time we get through this journey, 100 people will have come up with a slightly different answer to that problem. So what we actually need to do is reevaluate it at each gate 70, 80 times, and then use the data that we capture with that problem statement to get to the answer. And I think we have so many egos in the market. I call them that because they really are, that are right. I'm right, and that's the outcome we need to drive. And unfortunately, that's what's slowing a lot of businesses down. That's why you're seeing, in my humble opinion, you're seeing a lot of startups start to eat the food of the big tech and integrators. I'm gonna probably get stung for this, but if you look at the integrator market, I wasn't in the service integrator business, so big outsource deals. That was my bread and butter years before Dell. And what's interesting in that market is they are looking for what they call innovation, right? But there's still a lot of people in that marketplace that only know how to do one type of deal, which is give me all your mess, I'll charge you a loss, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change control you up over the life of the contract to make a profit. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to deliver a really poor service and find efficiencies elsewhere. There's no innovation, because I'm an integrator. I go to all the service providers and I say, oh yeah, give me an innovation story for your tools. We need to minimize the amount of tools that you're using, or blah blah blah, whatever it might be. That's not innovation. That's not change. All that's doing is it's just creating a lesser service for less cost, because ultimately these big tech guys, that's why you look at the markets, they're shrinking. And so, to answer your question, and I know I've gone a little bit left field, the way in which I take a problem statement is very unique, in as much as I'm not trying to fix the outcome as I look at the problem statement first. So you're right, I'm dealing with a very broad set of problems. So, real world evidence with pharma. Well, I've spent a bit of time in, Belgium with the vaccines team at GSK. I understand R&D cycles. I've spent a bit of time with their heads of R&D. I understand what their problem statements are. I've spoken at conferences. So, I get myself credible enough to have an opinion on something, but I'm not trying to be the expert. I'm relevant. I'm humble enough to know that I don't know it all. But I also do know that there are some really bright people out there that would agree that if we manage the problem in that way, we'll get a much faster outcome. And that's how I'm training Aeon, so that Aeon will be able to deal with a much broader set of problem statements, but in a way that it's not fighting like Grok or Gemini would today for an outcome. Here's the right answer. No, this might not be the right answer, but let's work on it. Let's talk about it, because then it starts to feel more intuitive, the way that you're engaging with your, dare I call it, your tool. Then it becomes more intuitive, because then you learn and it learns and we all learn together. And that's how we build the next ecosystem of interface. Because ultimately it's not just going to be tools talking to tools, because you will have that. You'll have Microsoft talking to Amazon, talking to Apple, and you'll have 4 contracts that you probably don't even know about, but you're being charged one service from Apple to back off all those different services, and they're all providing it to you. 4 ecosystems taking a little bite of the money. That's the new world, right? And our platform's no different. That's what we intend to do, but we intend to aggregate the marketplace as a whole and entice people to come into it by having a financial engine that everyone can get rich off it.
I have one last question. You came up with a very unique solution that you want to solve. I mean, you decided to solve something that, that, I mean, it's extremely unique. So there are a lot of AI already in the different companies already. Tech
Yeah.
companies are their own AI. So how different it is
Well, it's not that it's
yours?
different. Yeah, so it's a good question. Here's the thing. I can't progress to be the people's health platform and then give Grok or Gemini or OpenAI your data, because Then I'm using a third-party tool which has very different set of principles to how I roll and run my data. It's not that my AI is going to be better, worse. It's probably not as powerful as their tools, but it's different because the way that it approaches the answer. It's designed to answer around your wellness and to be your sentient buddy around to bring you into resonance. Now, there isn't an AI, and again, I send you to my white paper on how I'm building it, TE3. I can send it to you, which will talk a little bit more about kind of why we're building it in this way. But it's about user sovereignty. So it's not that my AI is going to be better than anyone else's. Of course, I haven't got the budgets that these guys have to develop the King Kong of AI. Yes, it will notionally integrate into other AIs as the tool evolves. 100%. AI to AI integration is going to be the next big thing, and you'll have this web of ecosystem where everything's sharing its own data. But gate one, I need to create something that enables me to be honest with my commitment. And my commitment is to my user, we will provide you with sovereignty. We will provide you with ownership. And we will provide you with a platform that actually allows you to take back control of your health life and commercialize it if you want to, and understand your journey. And I couldn't do that if I then use third-party AI tools, because the way in which they ingest data, the way in which they disseminate it, manage it, collect it, is very different to what we're proposing to users. So it's really a philosophical perspective as to why I'm building it this way, rather than a tech. And there would be cheaper ways to do it, right, if I wanted to. But then the whole platform just becomes another same.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So that's why I'm doing it in this way, because I'm really trying to give people ownership, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I'm giving a third-party tool access to your data.
So, can you share about your product to my audience so that they can see and they can learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll happily share some data with you. We're pre-launch at the moment, but Aeon, I will share the data with you. I'll send it to you so that you can have a look, and I'll also give your users a pre-launch code so that you can access the beta version, which should come up with some interesting answers. When you ask it some funny questions, but here's the ultimate thing. You look at it like this, just to close, right? Here's the thing that I would say to look at. There is currently nothing on the marketplace anywhere in the world that says, I as an individual, and by the way, here's the next layer. This could be the same for your finances. This could be the same for doesn't matter which way, how you want to look at it, right? We are developing an ecosystem that you can put your entire life on and own it. Now, if you look at a company, think of yourself as a corporation. So you are Psy Corporation. Psy Corporation, and we're starting with gate one, which is your health, because that's the most important thing. Mental health, physical health, well-being, nutrients, biometric makeup. What's my life look like? How am I going to live? How do I have the lifestyle I want? If you want to go and do drugs every weekend, you can, but there are impacts for that the tool will share with you, and their life choices that we're not trying to judge anyone. That's what these life choices are for. Then there's a layer after that, which is your financial health, where you, Psy Corporation, will enable to say, well, Pfizer, I'll let you know when I'm using your inhaler. That's called real world evidence. It's called clinical trials, and because I'm doing it, I will commercialize my own health and wellness data. So we actually are giving you the ability to take away from the R&D companies with that anonymized data play, which is $1 billion market, and connect directly with the pharma companies or your health companies or the gyms directly. So that's the second layer. The third layer then starts to become, well, what other aspects of your life could you digitize? Because you've got that as part of your ecosystem. So there are further releases, further layers that we can put into there, which is your finances. So the other thing is that there are talks that we're looking at, how do we integrate other AIs for like AI trading tools? AI, where's the best places in the world to hold your money? What are the most stable markets? How do you diversify your portfolios? These are things that likes of Bank of America are doing with their corporate clients. We want to take it to the individuals. So you think of it like this: you are a whole person. You have a health and wellness platform element. You have a finance element. You have then your life and dependence element. So who you have in your life, what's the interaction with them, what's their engagement. We will then enable you to be able to build your whole life stack on a platform. Now, some people would be like, oh my God, why would I give that to a tool? Well, you're not, because you own that data. But what you then have is you then have Psi Corporation, and and all of your data, health, life, finance, lifestyle, everything, all sitting on a platform. Now, there are companies all over the world right now that are trying to build applications to take parts of that data off of you. Learn about what are your buying mechanisms? How do you like to shop? How do you like to, what sort of adverts should we send to you? Well, what this platform will do, ultimately, you want to talk, the ultimate goal is it will get rid of all of the noise. Because Aeon will know who you are. It will know how you like to be, what you like to shop, who you like to engage with. It'll take away the noise digitally for you if you want it to, and it will enable you to commercialize and make money out of your own data by negotiating the right deals based upon your lifestyle. So it becomes less of a tool. It becomes more of a lifestyle platform where, your gym, your ecosystem, your car, your car club, whatever, everything sits on one ecosystem. But the first layer is the most important, and that's your health.
So, as a company CEO, as a leader, as a technologist, as a fitness trainer, so you are into multiple things. So,
I
really
am.
appreciate that. Yeah. And at last, what's your observation about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
Yeah, I like your work. It's interesting. I think the format's good. I think you're you like to talk to left field people like me, which is great. So yeah, I think the only thing that I would recommend if you want to get access to bigger players is they like really short, snappy, outcome based data. So where we've been quite philosophical on this call, um, people tend to want I have, and this goes back to the problem statement, right? I'm a head of R&D for Pfizer. I want to know, how do I access real world evidence? Can you interview someone that is a real world evidence practitioner that tells me how the best way to access that data? Give me a 15-minute short podcast. How do I access it? What do I do? Rather than what we've done, which is a great conversation, is more a philosophical summary of a mad scientist view of the world, of something that we're building, right? And there is one final point I did want to make. The reason I am so much into my physicality and my fitness and training people is one thing that I've seen both in the commercial space, but also in the leisure space, but commercial primarily. There are so many people in leadership roles, and I was going to get back into the city for a little while. There are so many people in leadership roles where I look them in the eyes and I can see how broken they are. And it's sad because they are performing. People are performing a role rather than performing to their full potential. And so that's why the physicality, the yoga, the breath work, all of my somatic practices that I teach have evolved me immeasurably, because it enables that breadth of engagement. You and I could go and have a beer, right? And we get on great, just like I can go and have a beer with someone else. But there are less impediments to how I would do that compared to someone with a broken ego. And I've sat across the table so many times with these people where I start to talk about things with people, and you lose the mask, and you start to get under the skin of their trauma that they're living through. And this is the real reason why this platform for me is such a personally important project, is because a lot of people have been taught that their trauma is something to hide, and their pain is something that makes them weak, and it's not. And people have to learn to transmute it. And if they have to do it in private through tools like what I'm creating, then so be it. But at least then it exists, because otherwise people are just carrying it around with them for the rest of their lives. So that's the real reason why that kind of breadth of modality is so important in my humble opinion.
So, what do you say to my audience who are listening to you from anywhere on this planet?
So listen, if anyone has questions, or you've got some cool ideas, I'm open to having a chat. You can find me on Instagram, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm very happy to get on calls, work. If there's other projects out there that are doing similar stuff, I'm happy to collaborate. I'm very open at getting this out on the planet. I'm very open to hear if there are innovative people that have similar ideas. I'm also very happy to mentor people. If people like what I've had to say or like my experience, and want me to spend time with them, I do that a lot. So thanks very much for your time, and let me know if this is spurn some insight into anyone, and I'm more than happy to get on the phone and chat to them.
Definitely. Can I put this clip on my podcast with your permission?
Yeah, sure.
So, at last, one question. Since I'm a sportsman as well, I'm a cricketer, professional sportsman. I mean, also I regularly go to gym,
Cool.
and also by profession I'm a technologist. I did masters in software engineering and also bachelor's in computer science and engineering. Right now, I'm working as a DevOps engineer for a London company, remotely
Cool.
from India. So that's my full-time role. Apart from this, I'm interviewing experts like you who are, who are working on different products and services and who are trying to make the world better place to live. So I interviewed more than 800 people and
Wow.
company CEOs. I mean, I'm going to interview the vice president of Amazon Web Services on 24th of this month after the. So
Awesome.
I have, yeah, a lot of founders, chief executive officers like you. Are going to come, and already I have interviewed hundreds of people, the leaders. So they are going to watch this interview as well. So uh, apart from my role, a technology role, I'm interviewing experts like you who are curious about something and trying to solve an important problem. So what I'm going to learn from these conversations and how it is going to be helpful for me in future.
So the best way that I would describe how I would take these conversations that you're going through, because you're clearly, you're dealing with the right end of the market, and you're having lots of thought leadership, which is fantastic. What I would do with each of these conversations is look at, again, what's your end goal? And when I say that, I say it humbly, which is, are you looking to set up the next DXC, right? Or um, are you looking to build your own software dev company? Are you looking to create partnerships? You know, you're clearly, you're a smart guy. So the market is, what are you trying to build? What's your vision of your future? And once you understand that, the connections that you're making, I live and die by my network, and we all do. So we're humans, and again, this goes back to it. We're humans. So at the end of the day, having that connection and having these conversations, have in the back of your mind your end goal, and that's really important because it will change. By the way, your end goal today will be very different in a number of years' time. So don't take that off your hat, but think of the conversations that you're having and the people that you're meeting, and think of the network that's behind those individuals, and how, if you were sitting in a room with them, how you might use that one as a knowledge base, because you're meeting some people that have had life experience, like a lot of it, and have very strong networks. The second thing that I would recommend is then looking at how do you apply that to your journey, what based upon the outcome, because there's no point just having no outcome. You have to have
Yeah,
an end vision. Now, clearly, you're a DevOps guy. You're an engineer. You know what you're doing. You know the market. You know the direction of travel. And I think what you're doing here is really clever. So how do you apply that short, medium, long term? Short term, how do you apply that to raise your profile, then your day rate, right, or your engagements that you're engaging on, right, more high profile, big,
Yeah.
more empowered. Medium term, how does that help you use these contacts to get funded and then have your own dynamic, your own company, your own, if you have a certain way that you think that the DevOps cycle should be run, and you build a blueprint based upon all the conversations that you've had. For example, you could then say, well, I've had conversations with all the leaders that I know of that have had senior VPs or CEO roles in the current market that are influencing, and based upon all of the feedback they've said, this is where the for example, the gap in the market is. You can use that credibility to elevate yourself. Then more long term, you look at how these connections and these people that you're speaking to, I spent an hour and 20 on the phone with you, that's someone that I would pick up the phone to you, right? So how do you use that more long term to honor the relationships that you build, and retain your credibility? And that's really important as well. First conversation's great. Retaining that credibility for the medium and long term, where you deliver and you learn how to leverage those relationships, will, I'm sure I'll be seeing you flying in your helicopter at some point.
That will happen. I believe you, because and when can we expect your end product in the market?
So it depends on funding at the moment. We are in the next round. We're doing a raise. It's a volatile market, so we will see is the honest answer. I have beta models now. We were hoping to be launched last summer. The market has just been so volatile. I have a final run with a VC this coming month. So if we do get this funding, I can have the product to market in 8 weeks. I mean, that's how close we are. So it's really highly dependent. So if you know anyone in the market that wants a product as crazy as mine, we are one round away from launching. We have every document, user interface, UI, UX, blueprint, AI blueprint is done, data flow is done based upon multiple religions, multiple countries. I have done a world map. So a lot of due diligence has gone into the product. It's an enterprise ready product that I was building to originally integrate into the service integrators. So I built Ferrari for a market that's not ready for it.
Yeah.
So we're honing it, as you know, like what I've explained to you is a $20 million app, right? And so what we're having to do is we've had to create release cycles. So gateway 1 will have this functionality, gateway 2 will have this functionality, so that we prove to the market, 1, there's demand, 2, that the product works, that the AI tool's not mental, that we can meet certain gates. So I've re-evolved the product. It's taken a year to do, to rewrite the delivery plan so that we have these short cycles. Like you might imagine, as a DevOps specialist, you have these short win cycles where we do releases and then we validate. And that's the new plan. So again, once we get funded, I can have MVP 1 launched in 8 weeks. We'll see what happens.
So give me an interview after launching it.
Okay, deal.
Thank you, John, again for your valuable time.
All right, good to meet you. Take care.
Take care, sir. Bye.
Bye.